Welcome back, folks. I have with me John Brown, former NBA starter for the Atlanta Hawks. And before the break, I was asking John about some of the people he played against, et cetera. And one of the questions I had for him is, who were some of your favorite teammates over the years, be it high school, college, pro, what have you? Who are some of those favorites of yours, and basically why would you consider them favorite teammates?
Well, it wouldn't do a whole lot of good to talk about the high school guys because nobody knows who they were. I mean, they're still friends to this day. You get on to college, and we talk about Al Eberhard, and he obviously a great teammate, and he's been a great man in life too. He's had a very successful life. Somewhat, I like to think of myself being successful, but Al's been very successful. Gary Link, very close to Gary, played with the Tigers. Still good friends with a guy named Steve Lind, who's a great shooter for us. You get into pro basketball, and the guy that comes to mind first is Tom McMillan. Tom McMillan was played at Maryland, 6'11", and Rhodes Scotland, and we just had a great relationship. Nowhere near in his league, and smartness, being intelligent, whatever. But we just really got along well, and he taught me a lot about investing. He was in the DC area, and he kind of understood how the world works a little bit better. But the one thing about Tom, he was so intelligent, but he couldn't remember little stuff. Like he'd say, "Well, John, what time's practice tomorrow?" I'd say, "Tom, it's 11 o'clock. It's always 11 o'clock. It's been 11 o'clock all year. And it's 11 o'clock tomorrow." Okay. And then 2 weeks later, "John, what time's practice tomorrow?" So it was that kind of thing. But we had a good time. The guy I mentioned earlier, Dwight Jones, who I was drafted with out of the University of Houston. I'll never forget Dwight, 6'10", played on the Olympic team with him together. Mm-hmm. He was actually leading scorer on the Olympic team that year. Came in together, and I'll never forget him getting his first check from the Hawks. And he looked at that check. He said, "Damn, I just took a pay reduction from the University of Houston." What he didn't realize, you see, he said they took much money out of my check, taxes. They took all these taxes out, and so he ended up with this smaller amount than what he was planning on. And I'm not accusing University of Houston or anything, but he did say he took a pay cut when he came to the Hawks. That's saying a lot.
Oh, that's great. That is funny.
But he was a great guy. We lived a couple doors apart in our apartments, and went to a lot of the practices and games together. A lot of other good guys I played with, Steve Hawes. Then Truck Robinson was a great player that I played with a little bit later, and Dan Roundfield was great. Again, you may not remember those names, but they were good guys that Hubie Brown brought in. Mm-hmm. And Truck was more of a small forward, but built like a truck. Just a huge guy. And Dan was more of a four position, a big forward. And Hubie always did tuning. So we would play 10 guys. It didn't matter whether you started or not. You were going to play basically half that game until the last 3 or 4 minutes, and he would try to play the guys that were the most dependable on that given night, whether it's free throw shooting or whatever, good passers or whatever. But and then the last guy I'll mention is Pete Maravich. Pete and I really had a nice relationship, and he right off the bat started calling me Apple Pie. He thought, well, here's a Midwestern guy that's so pure and all this stuff. Although I wasn't, but he thought I was pure, and but he and I got along really well. It was fun to watch Pete play. That was my rookie year, and a guy named Lou Hudson and Pete Maravich Lou Hudson had been the star forever for the Hawks, since the days they left St. Louis. And Pete and him were competing for the league scorer of the team. So I think one averaged 23, one averaged 24. It was right neck and neck, But you can imagine getting a shot out, between those guys, because you had to go get offensive rebounds if you were gonna score with those two. But Lou was also a gentleman, great guy to play with, Lou Hudson. And Pete was fun to watch. I mean, there were nights when he probably kind of beat you because he just, he shot 42% from the floor. And back in those days, a team needed to shoot 46, 47, 48 to have a good winning team. You need to shoot in those higher 40s numbers. Mm-hmm. And Pete drug that down somewhat, but he was a showman. And in those days, sometimes it was hard to draw. You didn't have the TV audiences. You didn't have the impact that the NBA has today with every arena is full. It doesn't matter where you play. Just the popularity. And it wasn't that way then. I mean, you've seen the movie Semi-Pro where they bring in dancing bears or something, they were always doing stuff, crazy stuff like that to bring people in, And Pete was that way. He was a showman, and people loved to come and see him play. But I knew, God rest his soul, I didn't know that Pete would ever play on a really good team, because he had to have the ball in his hands a lot, and his shooting percentage just was not super high. But when he got on, I mean, it was amazing to watch. But he was an interesting guy. Besides that, a great guy. He befriended me from day one. I was just this lowly rookie, and he comes right up, and he was just befriended me. He was nice as could be, and I'm glad to have known him. Really, fun to have watched him.
Oh, he was a terrific talent, but I always, when I'm watching films of him, he would have been hard to play with, because, I mean, you didn't know where the pass was coming from. You figured if he was ever going to pass, it wasn't going to be just a nice little pass that you could catch and do what you needed to. It was going to come between his legs or over his ear or something. And he was extremely gifted. It was sad to see him draw. I think he passed away when he was 40 years old. And,
large heart.
Yeah, but he passed away. You and I wanted to pass away, and that's on the basketball court. He just finished playing. So I talk about players making plays, and we've been really blessed on the teams that you and I have played on together. And prior to that, for me, I've always played on teams that just seemed like we had guys that if you had to have something done in order to win a game, they'd get it done somehow, be it a steal, a rebound, hitting the right shot, hitting free throws or whatever. And in your experience, who are some of the people that come to mind to you as players that made plays?
Well, that's I think the difference between the really good players and the good players is confidence. And I think I lacked some confidence in pro basketball. If I missed a couple shots, that I might just revert to layups only, kind of draw myself in and lose a little bit of confidence. But the guys, the great ones, the Larry Birds of the world, they always knew their next shots. And it didn't matter if they missed 10. If they were 0 for 10, they knew the next one was going. They knew the next one was playing. They kept shooting, and they had this unbelievable confidence that it didn't matter if they were 0 for 15, and they wanted the ball at the end of the game. And a lot of times they'd score. I mean, they could still do it. John Drew was kind of that way. John Drew. Sometimes I thought he shot too much. I mean, he knew that was the way to make more money, bigger contract, that sort of thing. But when you take those kind of guys like that, who always think the next shot's going in, they have no fear at the end. And I never really had fear. The ball didn't tip in pro basketball. The ball didn't get in my hands that much late in the game, although I was always to be able to make my foul shots. If I got the ball and got fouled, I could count on going up there and making my 2 free throws and keeping us in the game or whatever. I could do that. But like I say, the ability to not have a conscience really about how many shots I've missed that on a given night, and those guys that can just keep that confidence going, and really when you talk about college to pros, college is more fun. Pros is about money, and you have a lot of people that are playing for that next contract. And so in some ways, I enjoyed the teamwork. I thought when we had Cotton Fitzsimmons in Atlanta, he did a pretty good job of trying to teach teamwork and not worrying about your stats, just worrying about winning the game. But you have an awful lot of guys. I was on a team in Chicago that every guy there was playing for the next contract. And so it's hard to be a normal teammate like you, me, the Randy Knowles of the world who are going to make that extra pass, whatever it takes to try to get an easier shot or a basket when it comes down to how much money can I make next year if I average 18 versus 12 or something, even though the team might suffer. That's the only disappointing part about pro basketball. I think there's a certain level of greed there that does affect the basketball game. And that's probably why near the end, it was good for me to get away from it.
What do you think about today's NBA? And I'm not watching near as much of it as I used to, but it just seems like it started with the Warriors and sharing the basketball. And they found all the success because they did throw that extra pass and everything. And now it seems like a lot more teams are doing that. What would you attribute that to? Or is that an observation you would make?
Well, yeah, the best teams are always going to share the ball. But, when Curry started making the threes at the rate he did, I think that just changed the game. You and I both know that the three-point shot was designed for the fan to stay interested late stage of the game, because you can hit a three, maybe you're down 9, but just take 3 shots to get you back to the game with threes, and it kept the game interesting longer into the game. But it evolved from that to just such an integral part of the game. There's a lot of games where you'll see 60 shots are taken and 33 of them are threes.
Yeah.
And to me, that's fine if you can shoot 40% or something. Some of these teams can do that, but it's become I don't know how I would do in the pros right now, because it's all high pick and rolls. Mm-hmm. It's almost exclusively high pick and rolls, and the roll guy rarely gets the ball. It's always pass around the perimeter looking for the next three, and it's just a totally different game than it used to. You know that. There's so much pressure on the three. You got to have shooters. It's like University of Missouri. We shoot a lot of threes there, but we were 287th in the country or something in three-point shooting percentage. You got to have shooters. If you're going to win in college basketball, you got to have some good three-point shooters. And what I mean by that is, 39, 40, 41, 42. You got to have a guy or two like that.
Yeah. You are one of the few, I think, that after their pro career ends, continued playing. Most of the guys don't. What was it about you that said, okay, I'm going to play for fun. I'm not going to get paid anymore. I'm going to keep playing for fun. Whereas most guys didn't. How'd that come about?
Well, I might say it was a mistake because I've had both knees replaced, which I probably would have my original knees had I not done that. But, it's the love of the game. There is no sport that I know of that you could go out and play for an hour. You play nonstop, hour and a half, and the time goes by really fast, and you get this unbelievable condition. There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
You get on a treadmill, it's boring. You get out and jog, it's boring. So many sports, whether it's football or a lot of other sports, you just can't hardly do in that situation. But basketball, even if you got 3 guys, you can play 3-on-3. You got 4 guys, you can play 4-on-4 full court. You just pick up, and it doesn't necessarily even matter if they're good. You can just get a heck of a workout running up down that floor. Mm-hmm. Just playing together, and that was probably the big motivation, just a good conditioning thing. And then as you guys came along, Randy Knoll from St. Louis wanted me to start playing with you guys. And then once I played with you guys, it was so nice to, especially you, Joe. We were so, for an AAU team, we were so disciplined. I mean, we get the ball to the right play, the right guy at the right time. Set good tempo for the game. Call the timeouts at the right time. We had a good high-low with Randy Knoll. Randy Knoll liked the outside jumper. At 6'9", he preferred the outside, but he could pass the ball inside to me, high to high, or high to low, two big guys. But really just sharing the ball. I never had the ball thrown to me in the center position so well as the group that we played with. We won so many championships with, because you guys just understood the game, and you understood when to get the ball in, how to get the ball in. It made my life so much easier. Helped me score a lot of points.
Well, I tell you what, that was a pass that every one of us wanted to throw, because we knew when it was going inside, we were going to score or you were going to get fouled, and you were a great free throw shooter, to have that inside presence. And then the other thing about you was, if it went in, it didn't mean it was going to stay in. You weren't the black hole that a lot of guys are, that if you saw somebody in the perimeter that was open and it was a good shooter, that ball was coming straight back out to you for just an easy three. And to have people like that, and then we really were blessed, because Randy is a great team basketball player, as you are. And then, we had some other guys on that team that were really good shooters and very unselfish, and the whole goal was to win the game. It didn't matter if you scored 30 or you scored 3. The goal was to win the game. To play that way is just nothing but fun, I think. And just speaking about the coaching side of this thing, it is so hard to get people to play that way, and my going from experiencing that as a player and then moving into a coaching position where you're trying to teach that there's always seems to be somebody out there that has some hidden agenda or has a selfish reason for something, and they won't throw the extra pass, or they won't make that extra effort to dive on the floor to pick up the loose ball or what have you. It's difficult on the coaching side, and it's so much easier as a player, I think, to get a team to do that. So, but having you on our team was just, boy, what a treat that was. So I think we're going to take another break, John. When we come back, what I'd like to do, if I could, would be to talk to you a little bit about your faith and how your faith helped guide you through the years, or if your faith helped guide you through the years. And we've talked a little bit about it, but not a lot over the years. I watch you, and I observe how you are, and it'd be really hard for me to believe that there wasn't something driving that. And I think that faith, in my mind, that faith is what does that. So when we come back, if we could delve into that a little bit, if that'd be all right with you.
Sounds good.
All
no
right.
problem.
All right, let's take one break.